Nothing can stop me. I'm all the way up.
Hi, good morning, Mr. Ford. How are you?
I'm doing fine. How are you doing?
I am doing well. I want to welcome everyone to day 3 of Com Week 2022, where we are future makers communicating in the digital age. And we have Mr. Eric Ford here with us, and you are the global. You get your title right for me because I'm like the global community manager of L'Oreal, correct?
Yes, I can give more context to that too, but I'll let you continue.
Of course, of course. So, for the viewers who do not know, Eric is an alumni of Texas Southern University. Can you just kind of walk us back through that? When did you graduate? What was your major?
Yeah,
What was some of your favorite courses that you took at TSU?
yeah. So I came to TSU. Well, just to state off, I am also from Houston, Texas. So born and raised. Came from Thurgood Marshall High School in Fort Bend, and then graduated there and came to TSU at 2011. I came there with a band scholarship. Realized later I was not going to do band full time, but at least I was able to get my dormitory together beforehand. I was there to be some weeks beforehand, so that worked out perfectly. Um, but yeah, I started there in 2011. Found out about the yearbook and newspaper club there at that time frame though too. So I started there, working there since freshman year. Shout out to Entails Turner, who was my sponsor and also mentor there. But yeah, my major was print journalism. As we can see, print journalism is not that big right now, but that's what I wanted to do. I thought that I was going to be writing at Vogue. I'm not doing that either, so plans to change. And since then, I had just been working, being there for 4 years. I graduated 2015. I minored in creative writing as well, so English was my minor. So I definitely was trying to hit that writing thing for sure. But yeah, that's pretty much the small bit of my career there.
Yeah, the small bit. You
Yeah.
said creative writing was your minor. How important was it for you to actually take a writing class?
Yeah, I've been loving to write since seventh grade. So every school I've been to, I've been in part of at least a yearbook or a newspaper club there where I was writing, doing journalistic things. I knew that that was something that I wanted to be, I was really passionate about. It's something I was really great at. So I pushed forward into that. So when I got to TSU, I was really able to flex my muscles and do that not only in school, in my classes, but also like for writing for the yearbook, starting our fashion pages there, doing a few bits there for the TSU newspaper as well though too. So that was pretty much like my fun time. We're just realizing that, okay, this is something I really want to do. And I do that now working in social. So all those skill sets that I've taken from there, I'm able to apply them to a short form writing time. So yeah.
Okay. So we started out at Thurgood, right? We
Mhm.
went to TSU. So he's showing you guys he is so Houston. And now we have transitioned into a huge position with L'Oreal. Can you tell me how did you manage to obtain that position?
Oh, okay. A lot of sweat and tears and God. God definitely kept me through there. It was a lot because I knew that I always wanted to live in New York. There was a time frame that I thought that I was actually going to go to school here before I was ever going to go to TSU. I got put on the waiting list. And then I just realized later like I was going to stay here, get what I needed, which I'm very grateful and thankful for. But then I knew like, okay, I need to leave. So 2018, January, I left there, moved to New York City. It was very cold. And to this day, I don't have a winter coat. I think it's just the southerner in us. We just don't understand winter that much still, and I still be freezing. But yeah, it took a while. They literally say it takes you like 2 to 3, maybe 4 years to really get your foot settled. So I freelanced a lot. Got connected with people. I networked with a lot of people, and I think that really what brought me to this stage now, working for smaller companies to medium companies to now working at L'Oreal. So it's been a process though, and it has not definitely has not been easy, especially for us coming from Texas and not really having a direct access line to get here. So
Okay. So speaking of direct access lines, you said you left here in 2018, but you graduated in 2015. So that little gap that you had between the time you were in Texas and New York, what were you doing?
Yeah, so right after college, did I did the unthinkable. I was like, I'm about to start cold calling people because I wanted to work. I ended up contacting this Houston native brand called Incline Studio, and I became their first social media manager there. So I was contracted there, and I was creating content there. And I was really great at it because I was doing it for my personal life as well, though too. So it just balanced off of the things I was doing there, and that's what I started doing at that time frame. And it pretty much got me to where I am now. All that content I was doing, and at the time, social media, a lot of people were on it. There were people that I was meeting from New York, from LA, from like Miami that saw my work in Houston. And like, that's how I started building those connections. And that's actually how planning me a time to move to New York at that time frame. But yeah, freelance pretty much.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
freelancing and using social media in the time that you were using it, that was, I would say, a time of emergence. I don't think
Yes.
social media was even as popular as it is now, right? We know
No.
that Instagram was developed, what I think around like 2010, 2011. And that was like a shy 4 years later, you're becoming a social media manager, like a marketer here. And that's like a new position that they created then, right?
Yeah, they had literally no one handling that. And I think while I was in school, that's where social media just became a target for marketing when it came for brands. It was mainly for personal use. So seeing how that transitioned and understanding what that looks like. And I think it's also the time where bloggers were turning into influencers in a way. So I think it was a whole new scape for people to create content. And brands were looking at that and they said, this is where we can really market our own stuff as well, though, too. And seeing what they were doing, and I knew how to create that content, I was like, you know what, this is a need that you need. And so I just went after it and got it. And it's been a great experience working there. And that kind of propelled me to where I am now, honestly.
Right. So you are like really trailblazing through, through social media. And now
Yeah.
we're on a global scale with L'Oreal. So how did you obtain this position? Because that's huge. You're in New York now. L'Oreal is a big company.
Yeah.
And you're handling something that everyone looks to on a daily. We kind of utilize social media as our daily newspaper almost.
Yeah.
So how did you obtain this position at L'Oreal and how is it going for you now?
Yeah. So like I stated, when I first moved here, I freelanced a lot. So I was able to get a mentor that I really looked up to a lot, Emil Wilbekin. He used to be the former editor-chief at Vibe a long time ago. So I got connected through him through social. Because again, I'm a go-getter. If I know who I want to get connected to, who I want to work with, I'm gonna do that, and I'm gonna cold call somebody, or I'm gonna show up at your office. I'm gonna do something because
Yeah.
especially living in New York, you need to make some money to pay some rent, and so I needed to pay some rent and get connected. So I did that. He was able to get me connected to working at Afropunk and writing at different places and things. And at the time frame when L'Oreal reached out to me, I had stopped working at two places. So I was working at a luxury fashion brand called 31 Philip Lim. And then I was working at Melissa Shoes. So those old 90s, 80s jelly shoes that people used to wear, I was working in corporate there.
Yes.
And I left there and I decided that, okay, I needed to be somewhere else. And actually, that was really God because L'Oreal recruiter reached out to me about this role on LinkedIn. And we went through the process. I met with a lot of high stakes people, and then they decided that they wanted to hire me. And this is literally my first time working in beauty, but it's been a great experience, honestly.
Okay. So your content spoke for itself and it kind of landed you where you are right now, right? So
Yes.
let's just kind of talk about daily life, Mr. Ford. What do you do? What's your day to day?
My daily life, when I'm at work, it really depends on if I'm going into the office or not. If I'm not going into the office, I get a little bit more time to sleep. But I'm getting my day together. I'm setting my house together. I always listen to jazz music in the morning. It's something that me and my dad have come to love a lot. My dad really taught me about jazz, and it's something that I listen to on a daily to just get my mind right, get myself together, where it can be a lot and it can be extensive. So, it's just something to put me in the right mindset. And then I get myself together and start working. I work. I do a lot of things. I'm in meetings, I'm in calls, I'm checking social media, those things happening simultaneously. But it's really a fun experience, understanding what's happening on social, seeing what's happening there, and then applying that to my job. It's like probably one of the most funnest things. And that's pretty much what my day to day is. It's like sometimes I get off at 5, sometimes I get off at 7, sometimes I've gotten off at 9.
Just have to be flexible.
Yeah, I mean, like it's a 9 to 5 'cause I work in corporate, but social media is literally a 24-hour job. So you're literally on, no matter if you're on the weekends, no matter if you're out of office, no matter if you're in office, you're always working though too. So my work days is just learning how to balance myself and all the things I do. So
Right. And
yeah.
how has your job been since the pandemic? I know that you said you're a lot of meetings and things like that. Are you currently working remotely or are you in the office?
So it's a mix of both actually, which I'm definitely okay with. I love a hybrid thing. I get tired of being in my house only by myself. So it's fun to leave my house and go into the office sometimes. Pandemic at this point, I started working here January actually. So it was a little bit different than me working at my other jobs when the pandemic was a little bit stronger at that point. In my previous roles, we were mainly virtual unless I just needed to go in for certain things. Now we are in like 3 days a week, every other week. So I pretty much go in when I can. I work from home sometimes. Today I'm literally working from home as well though too. So talking with y'all and answering emails at the same time. And that's pretty much what work from home is. But at least working from home, I can do a lot more things. So I can settle in myself. I don't have to get so super dressed up. I can make calls to my mom sometimes and talk to her on a daily when, we just want to kiki and gossip about work. I can do that in between calls and meetings. So it's a fun time to do that. Yeah.
Okay. So in this role as a global community manager, what is this title?
Yes.
Can you explain to me a little bit? Tell me, how is this different from being a social media manager, or is it different?
Yes. I mean, so it's completely different. So social is it's way more than just being a social media manager. Like we have a social media team here at L'Oreal. So we have a global senior manager that pretty much manages our strategies and manage the team as a whole. I'm the global community manager. So when it comes to community management, it's more like digital marketing. And I working on response rates. I do captions. I respond to our consumers. I also handle another piece when it's called influencer marketing. So I do all of our influencer marketing strategies and our advocacy strategies as well, though, too. It really just depends on where you're working and the brand that you're at. But they mainly is how we build community, understanding who our community is and how they affect the content that we create as well, though, too. So I'm paying attention to age, I'm paying attention to gender, I'm paying attention to ethnicity. What are they responding to? How do we respond back? And how do we communicate that? And on a global scale, we have different offices in different areas of the country. So within my brand. So with that, I pretty much manage what that looks like on a global scale, and then that trickles down to our market. So I pretty much build the guidelines of what community management look like. I build the guidelines for what influencer marketing looks like on a global scale, and then like our markets take from that, and then they funnel that into what works best for their region. So it's pretty cool. I haven't worked on a global team in this capacity before, so it's a very new learning curve, but it's really great, especially since I already had the skill sets to do this job already. It's just now on a bigger scale. So
Okay. So for the students who are watching, right, understanding what your position entails, we look at social media and we just say, oh, I'm an influencer. I'm an influencer for, this certain product. This is what we do.
Yeah.
So basically, you're creating the guidelines and you're sending them to the influencers, telling them this is what you are permitted to do. This is what you are not
Yes.
permitted to do when you're posting content dealing with L'Oreal, right?
Yeah, so I handle that. I even handle budgets. I will handle, when it comes to payments, understanding contracts wise, where can we use this content? How can it be used? Sometimes I work alongside our markets to make sure that they get global rights because we have a global Instagram page. So what that means is if is in France and they're working with, and that company is working with a brand, working with like an influencer, they need to get global rights so that we can post their likeliness on our global page. So it's understanding what those things look like as well too. But I think it works hand in hand with the things that I've done in my life per se, because I've also been a brand influencer. So being on both sides helps me understand more about like what the influencer needs, but then what the brand needs and how to build that together. And I work hand in hand with our content manager. So knowing what type of content that we need will understand more of how I talk to our influencers and say, this is the type of content that we're looking for. These are the guidelines. So when it comes to that, these are things that you can say, these things you can't say. These are how you need to set up your content. If we're doing virtual things, make sure that you have a clear background like I have right now. So it's visible to see. No other brands can be within this, if I'm working for one particular brand. So these are things to keep in mind for sure. But it's robust and it's always ever changing. So knowing how to be adaptable, knowing how to be quick on your feet if things change. I think that's pretty much part of my job, and then pretty much a part of every social media job as there is. Yeah.
Do you ever have the opportunity to kind of go through social media and say, okay, this person would be good for this role. Let's see if we can reach out and hire them to do this. Do you ever get that chance to kind of pick your influencers?
Yeah, of course. I That's pretty much part of my job. And there's platforms that you can also use to assist you as well for that. But I think as being a community manager or someone that works in influencer marketing is understanding what the market is, what the trends are, and understanding who the people within your community is. So for me, people say all the time, I know a lot of people, and that's been my superpower. Knowing a lot of people understands that I know what they do, how they do it, and how to use them in that capacity though too. So there's a lot of times I've contacted friends to do things for us because I know what their skill sets are. I know what their turnaround time is. I know what the things that they can do. And then if I don't know these people, I know how to reach out to them. So I'm literally always on the look for someone to understand more about like what they do, how they do it. And I'm always like bookmarking these people, writing their names down. Like it's pretty much in my brain at this point. I do this unconsciously mostly. Yeah.
Right, right, right. So I'm hearing writing is something important in your
Yeah.
role, right? Definitely networking, understanding what your role entails, who is who in what position, and also doing that between jobs, right?
Yeah.
And I'm also understanding you need the basis of what you were taught at TSU to do your position,
And that's on
right?
period, okay?
Yeah, I love it. I love it. You got to relate to the students, definitely, right? So let's just go back to Eric Ford, the student, right? And
Yeah.
of course, we weren't perfect as students. I mean, Miss Mitchell was a student too one day, and I wasn't perfect as a student either. But we're past that.
Yeah.
But let's talk about Eric Ford, the student, and Eric Ford now. What would you say to yourself as a student sitting in a classroom at TSU?
Yeah. I mean, as a student at TSU, I understood the school that I was at. I understood the access that they had. So utilizing all the access that they did have, also understanding that sometimes that might hit a certain point. And that's not a bad thing. That's just what we deal with at work at being at a Black university. And I think those things that we just need to understand. And for me, I understood that. So by sophomore year, I knew that, okay, I need to get an internship. And that's not something that a lot of they tell us to do that because, we have an internship class senior year. So you just wait to get there. But I was like, no, I need to start making my name known now. I need to start making myself aware of what's happening outside of my school. And so I did that. So I got an internship working for Joy Sewing the fashion beauty editor of what's that place name? Houston Chronicle. There we go. So I started working with her, and I saw her at an NABJ meeting my freshman year, and I was like, okay, well, she's who I want to work with. So I now know where I need to go. I did this also outsourcing the intern with a stylist called Ashley Dunn, where she was able to take me to Fashion Week for my first time. Like, these are things that I've done to reach out to because I knew that this is where I wanted to be. I also understood that certain things that I was learning at TSU was not always cognizant of where I wanted to be at. Knowing that, you know, there's certain access, there's certain things that we have at TSU that just wasn't privy to what I wanted to be. I wanted to work in magazines. I wanted to work in fashion. And that just wasn't there at that time frame. So knowing that, okay, let me get the teachings and the learnings I need at TSU, but then I need to outsource the other things. And right now, that's just what we have to do until we get those pipelines to come back to us to start building those networking things, though. But these are things that I want to work on as someone now at L'Oreal, understanding where I used to be and knowing what I can bring back to my school so that the students that are watching us now know that, okay, I have a direct access. I have someone to speak with to get me to a job that's not only just CNN, get me to a job that's not just investigative news and working on, you know, being a weather person, which those things are great, but there's so many things that are out there when it comes to working in media. There's so many jobs out there just working in social in general. Like, just working in social, there's so many different roles that are out there. And understanding what those roles are great. So I think that's just really what I would just tell myself or students that are in this right now, knowing how to outsource to where you want to go and finding the platforms to do so.
Right. And I appreciate you indicating or including the information that foundation is important. You have to
Yeah.
have those foundational courses in order to build on those. And it's super important to have that internship experience and not waiting until your senior year to get an internship, right?
Oh, yeah.
So by you having that opportunity as a freshman, that allowed you to intern a little bit more. We know that you interned for fashion designers. Did you ever intern for like any news companies or anything like that?
Um, not technically, not technically news companies. Just because I know that I want to work in like fashion media. So this is why I went to like Houston Chronicle to work under Joy Sewing. So, and that's pretty where that's like the newsroom as well though too. So
Right.
understanding that news is just not investigative news, but news can literally be anything. There's fashion news, there's news within beauty as well though too. There's Allure Mag, for example. At L'Oreal, we was able to interview and have an IG live with the Allure Mag's editor-in-chief, which she is a Black person right now. So like seeing her and having her visible, not only is showing Black people that what we do with our skin, but also how we can be in these roles and positions as well though too. So understanding what those titles are, knowing that there's things outside of news, outside of the newsroom that you can still work in media in. And I learned that by also just being on LinkedIn as well, reading
Right.
what those titles are. Like, I didn't know there were so many titles when it came to like influencer marketing. All I knew was just social. So when I got out here, I realized later, like, I can do so many new things. I can do so many other things. What are my skill sets really built for? And then I realized later, like, oh, this is where I can really fit in at. And I can just take all the skills that I learned and adapt it to what I'm doing right now in my career. So,
Right. Okay, so of course we talk about being in position, and you are in a great position. You have the opportunity to work for so many people and do so many different things. What are
yeah.
some of the cool things you have intercepted just because you're in the position you're in right now?
Yeah. I mean, I'm full transparency. Like when it came to this role, I didn't think I was going to be able to travel. Not only because I didn't think that I did that for my role, but because we're in COVID. I'm literally tomorrow. I'm going to Boston for work, and after that, I'm going to France. So like that's one of the biggest things for me. I never had a passport before. I had to hurry up and grab that. But just being in this space to have that access to go to France in general for work, and one, I have to pay for it, so it's not coming out of my paycheck. I'm totally okay with that. You know, this is
Right.
something that I love. This is something that I love to do. So like being able to, and it feels like a reward, but it's like, it's just what you do for your job though. So that's like the fun part. And also because I work in influencer marketing, I get to collaborate with a lot of different influencers to create content in. So I think that's the fun part. So like I said, when I work with Jessica Kroll, who's the editor-in-chief of Lure Mag, that was a fun experience though too. Not only that because she's Black, but also because she's in a field that I love to be in, and it's fun collaborating with different people. So these are things that I don't take lightly, and I'm always so grateful to be in this position to do.
Awesome,
Yeah.
awesome, awesome. I think it's cool you get to travel too, especially on someone else's expense. It's like you get to kind of experience more when it's like that, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
Definitely. I see we have some questions. I don't want to look over them.
Yes, ask me all the questions, please.
Okay. Okay, well, we're just gonna wait for George Hernandez to drop the question. He just asked if there was gonna be a question segment. Definitely will be a question segment. So we'll just continue until the question is dropped there. All right. So we know that foundation is important. We know that networking is important. We know that writing is important. What's a soft skill per se that you didn't feel would be important before you got into your role that now you see, okay, this is something I should have paid attention to, or this is something that I should have brushed up on before, I walked fully into this position. Can you think of anything?
Um, I won't say a soft skill. I think for me, all the skills that I have, I just knew that I just needed. And I
Mhm.
think that's really understanding not only your role, but like the roles that you cross function with as well. So, I don't work in video, but I understand certain things. So when it comes to creating content, I know what I need to say to these people to make sure that we're getting the things done. When we're working with creative and design, I understand a few things about it. So I know what I can say to it. And I think those are not necessarily soft skills to have.
Mhm.
I think that these are just skills that we should always learn, understanding other departments and how they cross function with us to know
Mhm.
how to do our job better. And that's
Right.
whether if you're in the writing, in the editorial part, if you're doing marketing or if you're doing social media or anything within the digital scope, knowing how you cross function with these different departments and then knowing what they do so that you can make sure that you're giving the right information to get the job done.
Okay. And that's
Yeah.
really important to know, all of the jobs, although it's not your actual job title, it's important to know the functions and how to actually perform that job duty.
Yeah,
Super important. Great
definitely.
advice, Eric. All right. So we do have the question. It
Awesome.
is, what is your opinion on cryptocurrency within the social media scene?
I'm going to tell you now, I have no idea. And that's only because of I do not work in cryptocurrency. I'm not for sure even if Gloria or my brand, particularly under Gloria, is depending on that right now. I feel like that's more of like a tech question within social as well, though, too. But I think the best way to learn about cryptocurrency within social is to tap into LinkedIn. LinkedIn has a lot of information. There's a lot of people out there that are working in tech that work in cryptocurrency that are also part of like social media as well, though, too. So I think that would be your best bet to find out those informations as well. There's also I'll also always keep like Medium on my it's a place where you can look up different articles and things like that. So Medium is a place to do that. Vogue is a place to learn a few things about that as well. To business of fashion, especially if you're trying to learn about cryptocurrency within the art world. Those are places that you can learn about these things that um I'm trying to think of another mag that is good. Forbes is a great place to learn that stuff as well though too. So learning those things, getting these platforms, especially within cryptocurrency, for me, I'm not for sure because I'm just not that savvy with that type of money. I'm just trying to keep the coins that I got in my own account together. So
Yeah.
thinking about crypto is a lot. But I think that's where you can start if you're looking for that.
Okay. I want to rewind a little bit because you've mentioned this app twice since we've been in this interview,
Yes.
and it's LinkedIn. How important was it for you to create a profile, and not only create a profile, but how to present yourself on LinkedIn? Let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah.
Because right now we actually participate in LinkedIn learning at TSU, and that's something that we do in our business professional courses as well as some of the tech courses that we teach in other departments.
Yeah.
let's just kind of talk about that a little bit. How was it, how important is it to create a LinkedIn profile, and then your presentation of yourself? Like, how do you want to represent yourself? I'll let you take that.
Yeah. For instance, people know me as a moves and aesthetic person anyway. So whatever platform I'm on, you're gonna get a vibe from me. So that's even on my professional level, you're gonna get something nice, something good. It's gonna be curated a little bit, it's gonna be curated just a little bit. And I take that approach with everything that I do. And I think that most people should as well. It don't have to be hyper curated as mine is, but at least having an understanding of what your brand is. Because regardless, we all have a brand, even if you're not an influencer. So because your brand is what's getting you hired. So learn how to market yourself is what I learned as well though too. So I check with my friends, making sure like the things that are written there make sense. I still work with recruiters sometimes on understanding like the language of within the descriptions that I put in there as well. You have a little bit more space to embellish a lot more because it's not a resume. So it's really much your resume, but on a digital scale. And I love using it. It's pretty much where I've gotten all my jobs at. So I'm pretty much on there. I would definitely say if you do have the funds to get LinkedIn Premium, because that was also helped me not only like previously when I'm looking for jobs, but now that I'm like connecting with people for my role to collaborate with them. So LinkedIn Premium allows you to contact people. You have a little bit more, they call it like credits, but basically you can message people. And like I said, I love a cold message. So if I apply to a job, I'm going through that brand's connections, seeing who works there, who works in my department. I'm sending them an email because I need to know, I let them know that I put in an application. My name is this, I do this, you need to hire me. And if I don't hear something back, I might send another message just to make sure that they got my first message. But at least, I'm being active on there. And that what has allowed me to make these connections. I would say LinkedIn has helped me as well. Another thing that we did for Black History, not only did we talk to Jessica Cruel, but we talked to Blake Lauren that works as the beauty editor at Essence. I got her information because not only did I have her on social, but I had her on LinkedIn. And I connected with her on LinkedIn because I was able to with having LinkedIn Premium. But just having LinkedIn in general put me in a position to reach out to her. So not only is it a place for you to find jobs, but it's a place for you to connect. It's a place for you to learn. Like you said, you're using LinkedIn Learning. That's a great tool to use. But also it's just a place to see what other people are doing and seeing how you can flex that into the things that you do with your career. So I'm literally always on LinkedIn as much as I am on all the other social platforms.
So you definitely utilize it in a professional manner, but socially,
Yeah.
right? We're going to send those messages, and we're going to be very, very, very serious about getting that job.
Yes, always. And I will also state this as well, though, too. I know a lot of people worry about being professional and then being personal. Eric does not have no professional Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, nothing. It's all me. For me, I feel like that's the most authentic. You're gonna
Right.
get me wherever I am. This is how I am at work, and this is how I am when I'm off of work. I have fun on LinkedIn. Sometimes I can get in a little argument or two on on other social platforms, but I'm never veering away from who I am. I don't want to. I'll never tell another Black person to feel like that they need to switch it up. And and I feel like that has always worked for me. That's how I've gotten my job still, because not only am I talking, but I'm also spinning out knowledge, but I'm also showing that I'm doing my work.
Right.
And whatever I'm saying on there, it will never take away from the work that I'm doing. So I would say if you don't ever feel like that you want to continue to do that code switching, you don't feel like that you want to have two profiles. And honestly, that's a lot of work and I'm lazy. So if you know how to manage that, I'll say manage that correctly and you will get to where you need to be. And honestly, that's how I got my job at L'Oreal. Being myself, doing the things I'm doing on my social platforms, and that worked in my benefit to get my job.
Awesome. We have
Yeah.
another question from Jorge that kind of
Yeah.
aligns with what you're talking about right now. He wants to know, are influencers different off camera?
I think that's just a personal thing. I think that's for that particular influencer. Some influencers are, some influencers not. I think that's just in real life. Are people the same at work, or if they are when they're not at work? I think that just depends. When you're an influencer, And I have a lot of friends that influence full time. That's their job. So, they might have to be a little bit more strict, a little bit more put together at times, depending on the content that they're doing. So I think it's just understanding what that influencer does and being mindful that this is like their job as well, though, too. It's not fake. A lot of people think that having social media or social media is a lot, but it's really the person that's utilizing that tool. So understanding who that person is, and then you can make the distinction if they're fake or not. And sometimes they are, sometimes they not. But I think understanding that and doing it based on case by case, and not just limiting everything like, oh, influencers just do this, and then off camera they're not even like that. That's not a realistic thing. I have a friend named Yolanda. She does fashion a lot. Who she is on camera is who she is off camera.
Right.
Though too. So it's really just getting to know that person and understanding the things that they do.
Yeah, and I mean, with that, Eric, a lot of that transcends. People's, your personality, it will transcend throughout your work, and I think that if you stay true to yourself, in all aspects, it'll be easier for you to do any job, just as you're doing.
And I mean, in past times when people used to be like bloggers, and the beginning of influencer, of that life was a little bit different, I would definitely say. But now we are moving into a new age where being yourself is a part of your brand. So, now we don't feel like that. We have to be something. And, those are the standards that were put up there. You have to look a certain way. Your follower count has to be a certain thing. I don't even have 10K, but I still get sent things from brands because they know how I know how to communicate with my audience. So if you know how to communicate with your audience, that's really all that matters. And you connecting with your audience is because you're being authentic to yourself. And that's what every job that you're doing. If you're being an influencer, me doing my full-time job here at L'Oreal, wherever you're doing, even at school, if you're being your authentic stuff and creating content through there, then it's always going to shine through and people are going to always notice.
Nice. And that resonates with our next piece that we need to get into. Dr. Pude wants us to discuss the importance of visual storytelling and marketing and content creation. We've kind of already discussed that, but I want you to really kind of hone in on the visual storytelling and marketing and how important it is in relation to content creation.
Yeah, I mean, I will definitely say it's not a skill that everyone has. Understanding how to really put a mood board together, understanding what colors go together, what vibes make sense. It's a skill that I was able to learn and acquire, but it was something that was deep within me, knowing how to put these things together as well, though, too, which is why I'm able to do that on my socials. So I would definitely say, like, understanding who your target audience is, understanding the type of content that you really want to create, understanding who you are and what the brand that you're trying to produce. And then that will help you build upon that. But I also understood that I had to watch people. So there's people that I watch all the time, literally now, and I'm seeing the things that they create, the things that they do, and how I can adapt that to my own thing. So that's really how I really build what that looks like as a whole personally, though. But those skill sets transcended to how I worked in my full time as well. My job recently, they looked at my social media to see how I curated myself, how I created things with brands, how I write, how I do captions. And those are things that they ask me to do now because I knew how to do that within my role. So knowing how to add that within your daily life, especially if you're trying to work in social, those things are super, super important. And when you know those things, it makes it easier to know what type of content you need to create, how that content needs to look, and who to connect with to let them know that these are the details that I need. And this is why I also talk about those, we talked about those soft skills. I know how things need to look because I have a visual element with that. I'm able to build what that deck looks like, and I can give that to creative. Hey, I need this. These are the type of typefaces that I'm looking for. These are the type of imagery that I feel like that we should have. Check our database to see if we have these type of images to do these type of things or whatever. Like, these are things I know how to say because I look these things up, I study these things, but I also understand what our mood is. I understand what our vibe is. And I think that will continue to push you forward. And I mean, if anyone has more questions on how to build that, I can definitely offline and go more into that, but that's pretty much a roundabout way of going to it.
Right. And that's a skill that you can definitely be taught.
Yeah,
but it takes studying, right?
it takes time,
It's not just
definitely, for
given.
sure. No.
Okay. And I think TSU Com Week just said what I was going to say. We have a few minutes left, so please, audience, do not be afraid to drop those questions in the chat. Mr. Ford is here representing L'Oreal, and of course, I have a million questions that I can ask, but I don't want to be stingy and keep you all to myself. So I have to, I have to share. I have to share so
Yes.
people ask you some questions.
Yes. If any
I
students
think
have any
that it's
questions, happy to answer for sure. Especially being a student there at TSU myself. So anybody have any questions, I'm down to answer.
right. Okay, so we have a few minutes. I'll do just a quick recap and give them
Yeah.
some time to. Okay, there it goes.
Ooh.
We have a question here. What is your advice for gaining a following on YouTube or Twitch for a video game streamer?
Ooh. Twitch is so new right now. But it has been gaining so much traction. For me and the things that I've done, I haven't worked so much on Twitch as of now, but I do understand the basis of it though too. I definitely say it's really finding what your niche is there. There's so many things that are happening there. So knowing what your niche is, where you fit in that, and then how you can expand on that within the things that you can do. So I will first start watching what people are talking about, what they're doing on there when it comes to gaming. What type of games are they playing? How they're playing it? Who is within those things? And then I'll start reaching out to those people that though too. Hey, I see that you're doing this. I really want to get into this. What are some things that you set aside? Understanding that if I'm doing this gaming stuff, what technology I need as well though too. So do I need a certain type of camera? Do I need a certain type of setup for when I'm gaming? Is there certain things I need to do? And I think those are things to really pay attention to as well. But like I said, this is why I say always have LinkedIn, because like gaming is now even a full-time job. So you can find people that game and that are in tech that can really assist. I also know people that work in a social team there at Twitch as well. So if there's something that you want to get to understand more of how that monopolizes together, I can definitely assist with that as well. I learned a lot from Twitch by watching my friends that are on LinkedIn and things that they talked about and things that are growing into. So it's definitely a place for that. You just have to pay attention to what these people are doing and then find out how you can adopt that to what you have going on.
Right. So doing the basic research and seeing what's out there and forming
Yes.
yourself to
But
be
I
a little
also,
bit different.
yeah. And I also say like to follower base is not that important. It's not as important anymore as it used to be. You know, people used to care about being a macro influencer or a macro person on social where you have 1 million followers and that's what makes you, you know, I guess like a top person with the best answers. But that's not necessarily true. I'll say less paying attention about your followers, more paying attention to your comments, more paying attention to your engagements. What are people actually saying about the content that you're building? Like I said, I can get 200 things on the likes, but I can get 32 comments. And I get 32 comments because people are actually communicating with me and they know that I communicate back. And I think that's more important. Building community is way more important than the likes that you have. You can have 1 million likes and no one cares a fuck about what you're doing. And I think that's the thing as understanding that though too. So knowing your followers, they will come, but they will come by you being more authentic. They will come by you paying attention to the community that you're building, you interacting with them, and that will build your following base. And regardless if you're at 1 million, not, if a brand sees that you're doing something great, they're going to reach out to you regardless. It don't matter about the follower count.
Right. It's the engagement piece that keeps people, those comments. I love it.
Yeah.
Another question that we have, it's actually two of them. One of them is a follow-up from our question now. Do you think collabing with smaller streamers helps with, I guess, building your fan base on Twitch?
Yeah, and I would say it's not even building a fan base, it's about building community like I talked about. You know, when I brand influence and I do things with different skincare brands or different fashion brands like that, I get to know other people that are working within that brand as well. So we build a community of understanding the content that we build and like we support each other in that as well though too. So it's basically like, you know, you're meeting your peer, you're networking with your peers side by side, and you're growing together. Even if y'all doing two different things, it's important to know what people are doing within your circle and to move forward though too. So it's not only about building your follower base, but it's about building that community.
Right. Right. Because the community will take you way farther than, way,
Always.
further than a follower
Yeah,
would.
always.
Definitely. Sam wants to know, how important is it to have support from your friends?
Support is everything, especially now that I'm living in New York and most of my friends are in Houston. So when it comes to that, I am always like happy to see my friends commenting on things that I'm doing or working on. And I do that vice versa as well, though, too. Like that's just really just being a friend in general, though. You're not always going to be in the same space. You're going to sometimes diverge from each other. You're going to move to different spaces. So supporting whatever that they are doing, and it's so easy to do that on digital. But I'll also say, like instead of always sending a like or always sending a comment, make sure that you're calling your friends as well. Sometimes I call my friends and have conversations with them. Am I doing that all the time? No. I can also be better with that as well, though, too. But it's understanding that when you support your friends and things that they're doing, that boosts their confidence to continue to move forward in the things in their dreams that they want to do. And that's just in life in general. It doesn't matter if it's on social. If I'm right next to my friend, I'm always going to be there to support them in anything that they're doing. So
That's right. That's
yeah,
building community and not just the following. That's so important. That's so
yeah,
important. So just to recap for some of our viewers who have just tuned in right now and they're at the end of this interview with us, Mr. Eric Ford, he's alumni of TSU. He is also the global community manager of L'Oreal right now, right?
yes,
Some important things that he pointed out in this interview was foundations, understanding the foundational courses that we offer at Texas Southern that assist you with growing into your career. Not waiting until your senior year to get an internship, get it as soon as you can. He started out in his freshman year, and also utilizing that LinkedIn profile to the best of your ability. And then if you have the profit to go ahead and get you a premium account, please do that. And
yes.
I love that he used cold calling. I'm showing my age right now because cold calling is something that I used to do. It's an old school skill that still applies, in the world that we live in right now. And cold
Yeah.
calling is literally, as we say right now, just pull
Just
up, and
pull up. I
I
will
would love to
send
speak
an
with the
email.
manager.
Yes, I will send a quick email. I do not care because I'm
Yeah,
trying to get somewhere.
yeah.
And that's literally how I got into places I need to be. And do some people respond back? No. And that's totally fine though. But as long as that you're establishing that you're reaching out, and that can be an offline, conversation as well about how to navigate that and navigate those no's or those no responses. But I think it's great to just reach out and to speak to someone because someone will respond back. And again, like I said, me doing those cold calls have gotten me my jobs.
Right.
So do that for
I
sure.
remember those days. We do have one more question that I think is super important. We got to get to this before we end.
Yeah.
How do you manage being consistently engaged with your social media community while working in your career full time?
Yeah, it honestly goes hand in hand. I mean, if I'm not, I'm always on social, but like I said, social is a 24-hour job. So like, I love being on social. So I'm always thinking about things that can go with work, but I'm also thinking about things that can be separate as well, though, too, just in my personal life, things that inspire me. So I think that's the consistency that's there, though, too. I do it all at the same time. And I do it unconsciously. And when you work in social and you continue to do this, and you're always on this platform, you're gonna do that unconsciously anyways. Is there times to always take a break from it? Always. I mean, like in general, I'm wearing glasses now because I stare at a laptop and a phone literally more than 8 hours a day. So sometimes you do need to take that step back and just say, like I need a balance. I need to shut things down so I can, revive myself back up. But if you're not doing it consistently together at the same time, then you're going to have a hard time with understanding things. And sometimes I see new trends happening when I'm not even working.
Mhm.
And at that point, I'm like, okay, well, let me notate this down real quick. So when Monday come around, I can come back to this because I'm not going to work at this on the weekend.
Right. This my break time. It's my break
Yes.
time. Okay, so Mr. Ford, I need to know, what would you say, right, to the students of Texas Southern University that just saw this interview, that saw like, man, this guy just walked the same hallway I'm walking, sat in the same chair I sat in, took the same course that I took. What would you tell them, right, to give them advice on just their career, what to do post grad?
Yeah. Post grad, like I said, utilize LinkedIn, also understanding where you want to go. And sometimes we don't know this all the time. I knew at an early age because that's just the type of person I am, and I am my mother's child. So these are just things that I was going to do. But if these are not things that you know of, think about the things that you want to learn then. What do you want to learn? And that will help you know, okay, well, let me get an internship there. But also do not be scared to reach out to internships outside of the state. I know it's hard to leave Texas, but sometimes it's necessary for you to get to where you need to be. And right now, especially in the type of field that you might want to work in, Texas just might not have it.
Right.
Working in fashion, working in media, working in beauty, these things are just not always accessible. So I knew that sooner or later I had to leave. So let's start planning that exit strategy. And it might happen in a year. For me, it happened in 3. But then I knew where I needed to go, how I needed to be. And then I think that would help me branch out and know who I need to speak with. And I think knowing that as well, though, too. So I'll start that before post grad. Honestly, these are things that you need to be doing right now while you're in school. Knowing the things that you want to learn, even if you don't know what title you want to be in, then start reaching out to those resources now. If you're not a senior, if you're not a junior, get an internship. It don't matter. They're gonna be there. Get that internship. If you see a need, like I said, I saw a need for a brand that needed my help. I set my resume up, I contacted them, and I did it. And I still learned while I was on the job, seeing what I could do and add to that as well, though, too. So you can't be afraid to take that step, because once you are, it shows up in your work. It shows up in your life and how you're going to proceed forward. And so you can't be scared to do that. And also reach out to people. You can reach out to me. I'm here. This is why I am where I am now, so I can be this pipeline to the students that are here now. Because I wish I had that, and there's times when I didn't.
Right.
So, yeah.
And that's what we use Communication Week for, to connect the dots for our students and connect that pipeline for the alumni. And we appreciate you. We try to do it during homecoming, but we know homecoming is a different time for us. That's our break time, right? Well, Mr. Ford, we would like to thank you so much for taking the time out to come and speak with us and connect with our students. We know that being fearless is something that got you where you are, being fearless with a plan.
Yeah.
So that's what we're going to work on at TSU now, being fearless with the plan, understanding where we
With a
want to
plan,
go.
yes, and also activating on that plan. You can make
Right.
a plan, but that's potential energy. It's
Right.
not going to move unless you act on it, though.
Right.
So I'll definitely add that part.
So we probably need to invite you back for maybe like a vision
Always.
board party or something, and we create a plan together.
Contact me anytime. I'm always going to be accessible to my people and to my school, always.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ford. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
Go, go. Nothing can stop me. I'm all the way up.